One thing that's to me is very important is if you're a leader in any organization, and that doesn't mean the chief. I mean, you might just be one of the guys that everyone looks up to. You could be a junior guy that everyone listens to. You have to start making it okay to talk about this. And
Yeah.
that's my lecture now is called Reducing the Stigma of Mental and Emotional Health. That's where it got boiled down to after all these talks I did. The title kept changing until it got to that because that is the number one thing we have to address. We're so used to, um, rub some dirt on it, you'll be fine. Like everyone goes through it. Shut up, kid. Move along. You know, it can't be that way because all we're doing is creating internal conflict and damage to all these people that if they address these issues early and learned about these things early in their career, maybe they never get to a bad place because they have coping mechanisms and things that they can do to diffuse all this. But the problem is with the old way of thinking was, and I relate it back to one thing is, if it was that simple, then if you're a paramedic, all you do is tell you you're going to get better because that's the truth. You're either going to get better or you're going to die. So why do we learn all this stuff, how to treat people if that's the case? If I don't treat your broken arm, eventually it's going to heal, right? But that's what we've done with emotional health. We just ignore it. We act like it didn't happen and people are uncomfortable with it, so they don't want to talk about it. You've got to drag it out in the open. And it's incumbent upon those leaders in those positions to start talking about this stuff and really, like if you don't know anything about it, bring in someone from the outside, a guy like me. There's people like me all over the place that'll come and talk to you.
Yeah.
There's groups, there's conferences, there's support groups, everything that you can introduce your people to, the programs like you do. Those things are fantastic where you come into a department and you work with the chief and the officers and set up these programs for people to learn coping mechanisms and things they can do to reduce stress levels. And any of that stuff is going to contribute to your long-term mental health of your entire organization.
Yeah.
Peer support groups, starting a peer support group of your department is huge. Where you've got a trusted group of guys now that folks know they can go talk to if they have an issue. And a lot of times it doesn't even work well sometimes within a small department, especially because those are the people you work with. But if you get a regional group together, where you can maybe talk to someone from a different department that doesn't work with you directly, sometimes people are more comfortable with that. So, there's a lot of different things you can do, but the thing is, do something. Don't sit in that silo and get worse and worse and think there's no hope for you because there's always hope.